Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Bream Fishing Project. In this episode, we are jumping back in the fast boats across at the Blackwood River in Western Australia to review the Daiwa BREAM Series, which was run and won on the 17th and 18th of May in 2025. It's a great little story. Rob Dawson coming in first place. What a great effort in what was a tough day, tough weekend. Anyway, let's roll the intros and then I'll tell you all about it. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bream Fishing Project. This is where you need to be every Tuesday to find out all the latest tips and tricks to help you target bream on lures. You'll get to hear from some of Australia's elite bream competition anglers and see how they were able to achieve their results in competitions around the country. Now, here's your host, the 2019 Hobie Kayak Fishing World Champion, Andrew Deeth.
All right. So like I said, this is a great little episode. We've got all the 6 anglers coming in, first, second, and third for boaters and non-boaters. I love it when that happens. Great to talk to Ruwan. He was one of the first guests that I ever spoke to back in the start of 2023. So good to catch up with Ruwan and great effort by him. The other thing, as always, if you're interested in something more, jump over to the Bream Fishing Project Collective. There is a lot going on there. It's a lot of fun. It's a good community. And yeah, hope to see you there. If you're lucky enough to join now, you might be lucky enough to take home that Force Lure pack that is up for grabs over the next couple of weeks. All right, let's run through the bite periods and what have you. Saturday, we had 52 in our fish activity wheel with a minor bite period at 10:31 through to 12:01. And high tide, it's the only tide for the day, 11:30 a.m. at 1.1 metres. Sunday, we had a minor bite period at 11:15 a.m. through to 12:45 p.m. Low tide was at 12:42 a.m., so 12:42 in the morning at 0.46. High tide was at 12:13 p.m. at 1.08. Something happened in this episode that's never happened before that I can remember. The winner, Rob, weighed the same weight in both days of competition, so you'll have to listen right to the end to hear all about that. All right, let's get into the angler interviews. Okay, so first up in third place in the non-boating division, we have an angler dropping 3 fish for 1.41 kilos, backing it up on the Sunday with 3 fish for 0.8, giving him 2.210. And third place, I'd like to welcome back to the Bream Fishing Project, Michael Sabat. Welcome back to the show, mate.
Thank you.
Mate, tough comp.
Very tough, very tough. One of the tougher ones I've had, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I'll get into day 2 when we get there, but I'm interested to see how you're feeling at the end, but we'll hold that thought. Tell us, leading into the comp, did you have a chance to have a pre-fish?
Yeah, so I went down 2 weeks before. I went down just for the day and I sort of explored right up the river, down the river, up in the flats and everything like that. And there was just fish everywhere. It didn't really matter where you went. I probably landed about 30 legals, just sort of pre-fishing, bouncing between spots, but not much size to them. The biggest I would have got was maybe 29 forker.
Okay.
There was a lot of fish around that sort of 24 to 27 fork.
Yeah, right. So lots of fish, but no big ones.
Yeah.
All right. And then for pre-fish day,
yes,
did you get out and have a look around?
I did, yeah. Went out with Mark Crompton for the day, and then we bounced around a bit, checking a few things out. We managed to get 2 pretty good fish on the pre-fish, one of them right down on the flats and the other one upriver in the ski area. It was very easy to get legals on pre-fish, not like we sort of tried to smash it or anything like that, but everywhere you sort of went, within about 5 casts you were getting fish, and it was pretty easy. So it was hard to work anything out, I guess you could say. But it just sort of showed that it didn't matter where you went, fish were there.
Okay. And in terms of lures, was there any standouts?
Yeah, probably the jerkbaits worked well. I got a good fish on a riggy, 56, and shallow one on the flats. I know Mark did well on the Sazanamis. And then we got some good fish on grubs, sprats. But at the same time, it didn't really matter what you threw on the pre-fish. I pulled out a shallow chubby, got a fish. Then I pulled out a zip bait cams and got a fish. So it was just sort of thing where anything worked.
Yeah, wow. Wow. All right. Saturday morning, who'd you get paired up with? And tell us a bit about your day.
Yeah, had Bill Bland for day one. So we've fished together, not in comps, but travelled around and went to, Malakuta and all of that before. So it was good fishing with Bill. The plan was to head upriver and have a fish and then sort of work it out from there. He did want to go downriver at the end of the day when the high tide was up and have a go on a reef and that sort of thing. So, yeah, went up pretty early on. Within probably 20 minutes, I got my biggest fish for the day, for the comp. That was 720 grams. That was just on a Z-Man grub, motor roll, 1/16, casting on deep snags. And you could sort of see the fish sitting under the snags. The water was really clear because we haven't really had any rain for about 3 weeks there.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, got that. And then we proceeded to fish for a few more hours without really any result, just a lot of undersized fish.
Okay. So when you say you could see the fish, were you actually seeing the fish? Was it clear enough to see them take your lure, or you could just see them there and you're casting at them?
Couldn't see them as you were, you weren't sort of casting at the fish directly, but as you came up to the snags, you could see fish sitting all over the snags.
Okay.
Yeah, more when you're retrieving a lure or even just go in just to have a look because you're not getting bites. You can, fish are there.
They're there. Yeah, you just may or may not be catching them.
Yep.
For the day, how many legals do you get for the day?
I got about, I'd say, 7 legals on day one. I only had one fish by about 12:30. And, then when we were down in a bay, we weren't really getting much. We fished a reef and there was other boats, sort of just recreational fishermen anchored up on it. So then I said to Bill, let's go over here. I know, this spot normally produces some fish. So we went there and then we both had one fish at the time and then he got his bag and then I got my bag plus a couple of upgrades in the last hour.
Okay. And did you persist with the grub or did you mix it up a bit?
No, mixed it up. So the grub I was mostly using on the deeper snags, but I was also up there using sprats and a few other bits and pieces. On the flats, it was mostly sprats I was getting the fish on, just with a 1/20th jig head and the gun colour.
The gun, okay. So the guns, I can't remember what colour. Is it like a green, light green?
It's probably their lightest green.
Yeah. Okay. And you said a 1/20th jig head?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
I found they were very active where we were. So even I went to a 1/30th as well just to see if it made much of a difference, but they were just grabbing it as soon as it sort of landed in the water. So it didn't make too much difference.
Right. And for the day, did you miss any fish that you regretted?
Not really. Nothing that stands out to me where saying it cost me a comp or anything like that. Everything that I had chances on, I pretty much got. There might have been a couple of good hits or something like that that I missed, but you don't know what they are.
That's right. And as compared to last year, I think last year you were you're the champion, isn't that right?
Yeah. Got it last year.
Got it last year. How were you feeling? Like 1.4. Now we know in retrospect the comp weights were down, but you would have been coming back going, that's pretty okay, I'd imagine.
After the pre-fish we had, I probably had about, 2.1, 2.2 kilos on pre-fish. Just from what we caught, I thought, it's not very good. Didn't really think I was really in it. But I knew that the previous comp, the average bags were about the 1.4. So
okay.
I thought we'll see what happens once we come in. And then I was sitting second from day one, only 20 grams, I think, behind Ben.
Wow. That is one of those ones. Sometimes you go out and you get a bag and you come back and you kind of hope that everyone had the same day.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
All right. Very good. All right. So second place overnight. Tell us about the Sunday. Who'd you get paired up with? I think the weather played into it a little bit as well. I think you had speed restrictions and stuff going on too.
Yeah. So both mornings there was very heavy fog. So it was 6 or 8 knot speed restriction until the fog cleared so you could see sort of a couple of 100 metres in front of you.
Sure.
That probably lasted maybe half an hour to an hour in the morning, so it didn't really affect things too much. But yeah, I had Jojo on day 2, Joseph Gardner, and we fished before a few times, and he was my boater in the comp last year that I won, so I thought that's good. And he previously, and he did well in the kayak comp the round before that we had. He won that.
Yeah.
So I knew that, whatever was going to happen, you're going to be around fish, and then it's just a matter of how the day goes from there.
Yeah, okay. Tell us how your day started. How did you go about catching your first fish?
So it was a struggle. I know that I don't think I really had many fish for the first few hours of the comp, getting a lot of sort of 24 to 25 tippers.
Ouch.
Too many 25 and a half tippers.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I think my first 2 fish that I got, I got some on sprats and I got some on mussels, and they were 26, like right on it.
Yeah.
I was at the point where measured it a few times and then put it in the well, and then I said, I'll see how they are at the end of the day, if they're still 26 or not.
That's right.
Yeah, and then just proceeded to grind all of that all day. We fished several bays where we normally get a lot of fish and didn't get anything. I think even Joe struggled as well. Like, I think he got his bag at about, 12:30. So,
right.
And I probably still had 2 fish it was around 1:45 I got my third.
Right. Ouch. And are you back at 2 o'clock then?
Yeah, well, it was at 2:15 because of the delay from the sunrise. Okay. So it was the last minute I got a 27 or 28 tipper.
Okay.
And still with the 2 26s that I had in my bag from the morning.
Wow. Those fish, did they come on sprats as well? Or did you say mussels?
Yeah, so they all came on the pygmy mussel.
On the pygmy, on the little one?
Yeah, on the little one. So Jojo's one. He was using the same lure as well.
Yeah.
And we were just going around fishing all the bays, casting in right on the weed edges, tea trees, that sort of thing. And you'd do a couple of hops. If you didn't get anything, you'd wind it back in and cast out. So you're pumping out casts pretty quick.
Okay. So you found that it's more about if they don't take it on the first drop or in the first metre or two, you may as well cast again.
Exactly, yeah. So what we found anyway is that any fish that were there, they were tied up on the structure.
Yeah, okay. In terms of colours, did you have a standout one?
Just the black one.
Black?
Yeah, just plain black. That's all both of us used really.
Yeah, okay. All right. Now, they're quite a small lure. What sort of rod, reel, line and leader are you casting them on?
Yeah, so I was using a Infeet, one of the, pretty sure it was the 722 LFS.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably brought about 6 rods with me and only ended up using about 2 of them because I was just, casting the same thing over and over. Did swap between other lures, but didn't really get much from that. Reel using a 2500 Airty Daiwa.
Yep.
I was using 4 pound and 5 pound, and I used the Daiwa Finesse leader.
Okay. Yeah. So pretty light. That's why I was like, you're going to need some decent gear to cast those.
Yeah, that's right. And I found it didn't really make a difference. I tried using 3 pound of it as well.
Yeah.
Still same thing, just lots of undersized fish.
Yeah. Okay. And it looks like you're 100 grams behind Ruan. On the Sunday, did you drop any there or did you miss any fish?
No, I didn't really get anything other than what I caught. There was no big bites or busted off or anything like that. That was it. I was lucky to get a bag.
Yeah, wow. Have you got any thoughts on what the difference was over the 2 days? Friday, you did all right.
Yeah, no, I think all the fish that I caught downriver on day 1, they weren't very big either. They were all around that sort of 27 tip. So there wasn't really any standout fish except for that big one I got upriver. I know there were bigger fish downriver because we could either see them or caught them on pre-fish. So I don't think it was a matter of area we were fishing or anything like that. I just think the conditions, and I know that there was rain coming that night. So whether or not there was a change in barometric pressure that made them shut down in the lead up to it or anything like that, could be. But the fact that we've had a high pressure system for a while where we've had no rain for 3 weeks, so that change could have been what slowed it down.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, there you go. All right, mate. Third place this time. What'd you get to take home?
I got some Rapala, soft plastics. Got 2 sort of big price packs of them and jig heads and plastics.
Yeah, very nice. So that's all the Crush City stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right. And the third place badge to go with the rest of your ones?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I was only doing 1 round this year, so I was pushing for the win, as you always are. But because I'm not going to be able to qualify with points from any other round. I was hoping to get to the finals, but not this year.
Oh, there you go. Maybe next time, mate.
That's right.
That's a shame, mate. There's going to be a good comp down in Victoria there.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, mate. Last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah. Big thank you to ABT, Steve and Nicole. They're always, create a really good comp for everyone, all of us around Australia. Big thanks to the WA Tournament Angler team. They ran the comp and did a great job with it. And yeah, thanks to the boaters that I had and for Mark as well. We travelled around a bit after the comp and made it a good trip.
Very good. All right, mate. That's brilliant. Congratulations on another great result. Good luck for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. Okay, so coming in second place in the non-boater division, I have an angler that dropped 3 fish for 1.34 on the Saturday. Backed it up on the Sunday with 3 fish for 970 grams, giving a total bag weight of 2.31. I'd like to welcome back to the Bream Fishing Project, Rowan Vanderberg. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're just saying to you, before we hit record, you were one of the first guys that I reached out to that I didn't know and was pretty nervous about the whole thing. Like, just sit in the lounge room and type the text out and change it. Yeah, it was a really good interview and I appreciated it. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking me and actually inviting me for a second time. I really enjoyed the first time. I think we've established that we've got a few things in common when it comes to fishing and how we track our data and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. It was a cool interview and I remembered it. And I've done a lot now, so that sort of says something.
Yeah, no. I've listened to a lot of the podcasts that's come through and you pick up a few hints and tricks here and there. You go try them yourself. They don't always work for yourself, but they work for others, which is the main thing.
That's right. And I think sometimes it's just that. Sometimes you'll pick up that one. Someone will say one sentence and one day it changes your day out. There you go. Oh, yeah, I've got to do that.
No, I totally agree.
All right, mate. So let's get into it. Tell us, did you get down there to have a bit of a look around for pre-fish?
Mate, I can tell you what my pre-fish consisted of. It consisted of 18 holes of golf in Margaret River.
Okay, all right. So did you play against someone or did you just have a hit?
No, we went out and had a bit of a hit. Look, like I said, I love the place. I love Blackwood, and if ever it comes up, it's close to my heart. So, yeah, I know the system pretty well. I just went off what I was told and kind of just put it together from there.
Okay, but I want to hear more about the golf. I want to know if you won the golf.
There's never a winner in golf, mate. There's never a winner in golf.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So then equally so the Friday you didn't have a look around either. So it was just straight into the golf.
Yeah. So pretty much my homework was I looked at the weather that we're going to have and the winds that we're going to have, which was light to moderate over the 2 days. I quickly had a peek in my diary, as you know, I just had a quick little look back at some notes and looked at which way the wind was coming from and what the tides were doing. It was really going to be high tides through the day, which I knew that the fish normally would move up towards the edges. That's the plan. They'll go and feed under and eat the mussels and crustaceans underneath the beds. So I kind of planned towards that. It was all up to which boaters I would get and what they wanted to do. So I was just going to throw the regular stuff that I normally throw there. Wasn't going to change the wheel. It's always worked for me. So once I knew what the winds and the weather's going to do, it was pretty much set in stone and what I was going to read up.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, let's roll into day one. We'll start off with who you got paired up with and then tell us about how you went about catching your fish.
I was paired up with Alex Christoph, funny enough again.
Well, there you go. That's a good draw.
Look, him and his boat partners on the Blackwood are very, very hard to beat. So I kind of knew what he was going to throw. We fish similar areas in the Blackwood as well. Whenever I fish there in the comp, so he's not too far away. You can always see him.
Yeah,
around.
right. Fair enough.
But I had Alex, and he just said, look, you know where I fish, and we're going to go up there and we're going to see him. He didn't punish him the day before. He left a lot of his water unturned, and he fished other places just to check whether he can see if there's any other fish around. There was a lot of the water that he didn't fish. This obviously didn't mean that nobody else stopped there and gave some of the fish a hiding.
Yes.
So we pretty much took off. We had a bit of a mist delay. Fog was in. So we just made our way up the river. It started pretty quick. Alex was getting him pretty quick and so forth. And I was off the back of the boat. I was watching what he was doing and what he was throwing. I picked up my first legal not too long after he picked up his first legal. And then I picked up another one not too long after that. But the fish weren't biting, like committing to the lures. They were sideswiping it and just pecking at it.
Yeah, wow.
So normally in that situation, I would have a stinger tied on down the back of the lure, especially if I fish a slim swim or something long. At this stage, I was fishing Daiwa flick bait.
Okay.
On the 120th, there wasn't much flow, so I was letting it just sink really slow. I would give it a few rattles and just barely move the lure forward off the edge, just literally sit there with slack line and just move it and let it drop. That got my first two fish. And as we moved into deeper drop-offs, he was throwing his slim swims and was picking him up. Like I said, normally I would fish a stinger, but the small amount of small fish that were coming up, it's just not worth it. Like you were going to catch 100 fish, blunting your stinger up or break your stinger off, and then you might get lucky.
Yeah.
My thoughts were, okay, well, if he's throwing the slim swim at the front, I'll change it up. I'll go a bit heavier because at the start of the morning we were fishing light. You know, it's 120, it's 116s, not a 112 or 1/8 yet, which the Blackwood is known being so deep.
Yeah, okay.
I went to a bait junkie in Bloodworm. It was a wave minnow.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
Now, with my wave minnows, I tend to change them up a bit. I'll either trim them a little bit, make them a bit shorter, but at this stage, I just left it long. And I've always picked up that the bream and the Blackwood love a long, slim, narrow profile. They'll eat it. They'll eat that. They'll eat a sprat. They'll eat a giro. They'll eat all those things. And they're not shy. Like, I mean, I'm talking 15-centimeter fish, take it all the way down to the jig head. Like, they're not.
Yeah, right.
So my thought was, okay, well, if Alex is throwing the seaman at the front, I'll throw something different. So the fish that he's already fished, whatever I drag past them, they haven't seen it. So I went and put a bloodworm on, a bloodworm wave minnow, Daiwa wave minnow, and I fished it on a 120th where Alex was fishing on a 116th at the front. So I got that quicker sink rate, but my bait was getting down on the dirt.
Yeah.
So my retrieval was just a slight wind, very slow, and a southern pause.
Wow. Okay.
And on day one, that's how I picked up my kicker fish for the day, which in this comp was a kicker fish at 650 grams or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is the type of fish that you want 3 of in the Blackwood. If you can have 3 of them, you know you're going to be up the top end.
Yeah.
I knew that Ben, who actually won it, they were in the same areas as us, and he's a weapon out there as well. Like, I mean, he fishes with Alex. They know what to fish. And I was like, okay, well, if I can just get 3 fish and I can weigh over 1 kilo to 2 kilos, I'll still be in it. And there's always tomorrow. And I'll tell you a bit later who I got teamed up with tomorrow. So I already knew this in the back of my mind.
Yeah, okay.
So I was like, all right. So once I caught the bigger fish on that wave minnow, I was like settled in. I was like, okay, let's just keep going with the wave minnow. I caught a couple more at that 27, 28 centimeter mark, and there was no upgrades really coming. I switched it up to a razor edge Bruce and green pumpkin. I was getting some inquiries, but once again, the fish were very timid. They weren't committing to it. And it was all because of the weather that we were having. I mean, sunny, no clouds, the water is slightly moving. Once the water started moving, the fish started committing a bit more. And Alex and myself were both getting like good bites, and we were like, oh, that's a better bite, and we were chatting all day. It was actually a very enjoyable day across the whole thing. There was never a stage where we were like, oh, no, we got to change things or we got to do something. We were just going to certain areas and just pretty much rotating through areas that we fished in the morning, then fished back in the later in the day when the tides come across. And I got done once for the day, and that was suicidal by myself. I pretty much put the bruise right next to the stump, and if I don't know, people have probably told you, but the Blackwood's not very forgiving. It's like razor blades in there.
Yeah.
You touch anything and it's gone. Doesn't matter what.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't matter what poundage it is. It's 8, 10, 12. It just pops like
yeah.
that. So got that bite, got done, and pretty much that was our day. We literally cruised around trying to get a few more fish. Alex tried to get a few more upgrades. Didn't happen. He got his bag, I got my bag, and it was pretty much travel back to go to the lie detector and see what we got.
Go and see what you've got. All right. That's a good rundown of day one. You ended up with 1.34. Where were you in the field?
So in the field, I'm pretty sure that put me in fourth after day one.
Okay.
Fourth after day one, or third after day one. No, I was sitting third after day one. I had Michael Samo just in front of me, and then also Ben up the top.
And Ben, 90 grams in front.
Yeah. So look, when they came in and said it wasn't the best fishing, and this is what they roughly got, and when they eventually weighed, I knew that day two, normally at the Blackwood, is a lot. If we go 5 to 10 times harder on day two, it's not an exaggeration. Right. It gets hard. It shuts down, especially when we've got 24, 25 teams on a normal event there. It shuts down hard.
Yeah, okay.
So now we had the weather against us. We didn't really have that tidal movement for an extra hour later before it started.
Yeah.
You didn't really have a wind until about 11:30 in the afternoon, and there was a northeasterly that blowing. So you had to be in specific spots to actually have that work for you.
Yeah, okay.
So I knew I was still in the hunt. It was just a matter of what can you do on day two.
Exactly. And look, you said you're pretty happy about who you were paired up with. Who'd you draw?
There's a person here in WA that everybody, I think, gets jealous over the size of the fish that he catches and just the meticulous way of how he fishes. It is the muzzleloader himself, Callum Dow.
Very good.
Look, he is. I've wanted to fish with him for a long time. I mean, you're in awe if you see some of the pictures of some of the fish that he catches in our systems and that he did when he was younger as well. Like, the guy is so over his weather patterns, so over everything, pressure systems, how they work, how they affect fish, no matter how he fishes. And I wanted to pick his brain. Like if there's a bream brain that you want to pick, it's his. He's just so dialed in on things. I mean, he sat in 6 after day one. I think he weighed 1.85 kilos, if I'm correct. I stand corrected. But I was happy. Like, I said to him, all right, what are we doing? Now, I knew there's only going to be 2 things here. It's going to be, we're going to fish deep. We're going to fish drop-offs, real deep. And we're either going to be fishing mussels or mussels.
Yeah, okay. So it's mussels. So
yeah. Well, he surprised me and said, look, we'll be fishing stick baits, stick minnows.
Okay.
Said, okay, well, here we go. Something that I haven't really done in the Blackwood in the past. I've caught a couple of fish on pre-fishing and stuff on the stick minnows, but that was just have a day out. You've done your plan and throw something different.
Yeah, okay.
So he told me that we had some spots, same thing in day two. We had a delay on our start.
Yeah.
Fog was still heavy. So we went out and he was saying to me, look, we're going to be fishing off the banks. He's happy to talk, and if I've got an idea, he's open. Like I said, I have never fished with Callum, and I probably had one of the most memorable days on the water, and we'll get to that. But the guy is just an absolute gentleman.
Yeah.
He was happy to share what he was throwing, where he's fishing, how he's fishing it, why he's fishing it a certain way. he tried to help me in each and every way that he could on the day. But we just went fishing, and that was the good thing. It was like we've done it before together. We were just chatting and just having a good time. We couldn't get any fish upriver, and I think it was about 10 o'clock, and I said to him, look, like, what are we doing? Like, we got to change something up. And he said to me, look, let's go. He's got one more place up his sleeve. But we need wind. I said, okay.
Yeah.
I knew where we were going.
And at this point, did you have any fish?
Nothing.
None. Nothing.
Look, I caught about 10 undersized fish, and he probably caught about 15 undersized fish. And it was
okay. Right. So empty live well.
Oh, empty live well with hope still very high that it's going to happen somewhere through the day. We persisted for a little bit, and we stopped on a couple of spots, deeper spots, tried to fish out wide in that 5 to 6 meters, see what happens, and nothing happened. We started getting that turn of the tide happening about that 10:30, and we made a move, and he said to me, right, let's go swing for the fences. There's one place. If we get the wind in there, we might be okay. And now I love fishing flats, and I love fishing down, and I love fishing the Blackwood when the wind's up and it's pumping and you can barely cast a 112 about 5 meters. That's my type. Type of weather I want to be in.
This wasn't that.
No, I want that Minn Kota screaming at 10, trying to hold you down. Anyway, so we made a move, and we went down, went past Cromo and then fishing, and he took me through some shortcuts that if I had a boat, I would never go through there. But he just said to me, don't look down because you don't want to look down. And I was like looking down, and we were literally sitting in about 1.5 to 2 foot of water, just cruising. And he wasn't letting off the steam either. So it's flat stick across these flats. And we went to a place called North Bay. It's one of the pockets in one of the bays there. So you get West Bay, North Bay. You get Swan Lakes down the front. So North Bay is sitting on the back of West Bay. We pulled in there. And as we pulled in there, Mr. Joseph Gardner went past us on the outside. Now, he is probably the last person that's dirty water you want to fish in at all.
Yeah.
But what we had in our pocket is that wind hasn't come up yet. So there's no wind on those flats. Now, Dowley and myself, we talked, and I said to him, I've experienced it down here that once that wind comes up, the fish come in with it. They just flock like, I don't know what it is, but they come in like cattle, and they know where these pressure points are and these points are. And Dowley was exactly saying the same thing, saying, yeah, if we get a bit of wind, we might be okay. And as Joseph and them left, I reckon it was about 11:30. We still didn't have a fish in the well. Oh, sorry. No, it was probably about 11. And about 11:15, that wind pushed in, and it was howling, like going directly onto this bank that we wanted to fish and these points. And I remember Dowley catching the first legal. Yeah. And it was like he's just caught a kilo fish. It's high fives. We're on. We're going to get this fish. And then I caught a legal. And I'm telling you, in the space of 20 minutes, we both had our bags.
Wow.
My second fish was a Taiwan, and I believe it's still the first Taiwan to be weighed in at the Blackwood.
Okay. Yeah, you didn't care.
No. I would rather weigh 3 Taiwan than 3 black bream at that size. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
We change our tactics. Like, if I fish the flats there, I normally fish a very light-weighted placky, even when the wind's up. If the wind's coming over your shoulders, I let it still sink. I'll just have my rod tip real low, let it sink, take its time. Dowley was still fishing his stick bait, and he was getting them. They were chewing that stick bait like it was going out of fashion. So I changed over to a Norries laydown. Now, the way I fish a Norries is a bit different to a lot of people conventionally fish it. I high stick it. Okay. I high stick it across the flats in about, I'll cast right to the bank, work it, high stick it, and then drop it. And let it just, because it's got that little flutter when it falls.
Yeah.
Anyway, for some reason, this Taiwan thought that it was his next lunch, and he took it. When I got that second one in, once again, there was celebrations like I just caught a 40-centimeter fish, And
yeah, right.
I mean, there was fist bumps going, and there was nothing holding back on these fist bumps either. I mean, I had to check my knuckles afterwards and make sure that, I haven't broken.
You're okay. Yeah, that's it. Oh, too good.
It was one of those magic moments on the water. The fish weren't big, but you just, after 1,000 casts in the morning, you had 20 minutes of mayhem on a little boat with somebody you got teamed up for a day. And it was just, you bonded over that little bit. And those are memories. And I said to Dowley this, and those are what fishing memories are made of, is those special 20-minute windows like that, or a 5-minute window that you get that just goes off. And this is exactly what happened down there. We hit these little, we actually followed this wind lane down, and we were just fishing the points where the water was actually going straight on, the wind was going straight on it. And it was just working. We followed them all the way down, and we were just catching them. And we weren't getting upgrades, but the same size fish were just coming on. And we had about an hour left. And I said to Dowley, look, the back of Malloy Island, if we are going to get an upgrade, I know how to fish it there. A lot of people don't know how to fish it. Myself and Sean, who was my previous partner, have had a lot of success there. I don't know how much it's been fished. I don't know who's been there or what they've done, but I've always been able to pull fish even behind other people. It's not a problem, but I think we should give it a go. Dowley's, yep, cool, no worries. Let's go give it a last hour. We'll go give it a crack. Once again, across these flats at about 1.5 feet deep, brand new tubblevies that he's had for, I think, 5 months.
Yeah, right.
Across these things, flat sticks, misses the channel, sweeps around these logs on the flat, like on the way back. We make it, and I don't know what's happened, but all the grass that used to be in there and the sponges that used to be in there is gone. Now, it used to have these spongy floors where the fish would hide in between.
Okay.
And they would actually hide in there. And when the bait fish blow across, they would come out and catch the bait fish. So I said to Dowley, let's start at the top and work with the wind. And we didn't have much time. I mean, by the time we got there, we probably had 35 minutes, something like that. So fished it, caught a few fish, and I think Dowley got one upgrade, Dowley got one upgrade there. Look, we didn't get any upgrades, but out of both sides, I think I took a lot home from how Dowley fishes and what he does. And I was happy to share what I've used in the past over there and so forth. And yeah, it was just, we wanted to fish a little rock pile on the way in. Of course, I knew where the rock pile was because I'm very familiar with that area. So I was like, all right, but I knew as soon as we didn't see bait fish in there, the big fish weren't going to be in there. So you need that spot. It needs to have a certain bait fish in there. And if they are in there, it's a party in there. Like you get a few fish, but when you get them, it's good ones. You're talking kilo plus fish sometimes.
Nice.
But yeah, that was our day. And like I said, coming into weigh-in, we just couldn't wipe the smile off each other's faces. Like he was just happy. He had his bag. I was happy. I knew I was in with a chance because I said to him, if it was this hard for us, it's going to be hard for the others as well. We knew the river itself fished very hard. And I said, I don't care who you are and where you're from. Like if it fishes that hard, it's going to be dead certain that everybody's going to have a hard day. Because normally if you get them in the river early, you know that it's going to get better through the day and then it will die off for about 3-4 hours, probably 3 hours in the midday. And then that last hour and a half just before weigh-in normally fires again.
Yep.
So even when I checked the bite windows, it didn't look very good. I mean, the pressure system, there was nothing. We haven't had rain down there for ages. Water was clear. So, I mean, I'm just glad that everything, the way that I could have prepared myself as best as I could, I used and it worked. And, I was able to finish in that second spot. I mean, I felt sorry for Michael, same thing, he's a gun. He's a very good fisherman on the Blackwood as well. Right across any system, he is very consistent. And you could see it, the river has beaten us that day. We were all talking about it. And we were just we don't know what's happened here, but this place was it was terrible today. It was probably the worst that we have ever fished in that system.
Yeah, wow. Tough day. I mean, one thing I wanted to ask is what sort of, it was tough, what sort of lines and leaders were you running?
So on day one, I've never, ever fished heavier than 4 pound in there. Never. I've always gone with the motto of rather get the bite and not get it at all. I'll try and figure out a way to bully him out of there on 4 pound. Don't worry about it. If I hook one, I'll get him out. If I don't, then I don't deserve to catch it.
Yeah.
And then knowing that day 2 was going to be really hard, I scaled down to 2 pound.
Okay.
So my leaders were, I knew that the water was clear and there was a good chance that we'll probably jump down the flat. So 2 of my rods, I put 2.5 lengths of leader on, and then the others I just kept standard at a rod length.
Yeah, right.
I was very tempted to take the dental floss out down the bottom there at 1 pound, but that water was that clear. But when that wind came out, I knew we were going to be all right because it stirred it up a bit and made it dirty. So I stick with my 2 pound through there, fished 120-ish jig heads on the front with a Daiwa flick bait. So those were my main baits, were my flick bait, my Daiwa wave minnow, both a bloodworm, and then my Norries lay down minnow, fished that, and I fished my baby vibe in the black and gold colour.
Okay. In that last spot, did you get them on the baby vibe there?
No. I got them on all my fish came on the Norries lay down minnow.
Okay.
Yeah. On my day 2 bag, all my fish came on the Norries lay down. Yeah. Like I caught a couple on a wave minnow. Sorry, no. My one fish did come on the wave minnow. My one legal did, but I couldn't.
Okay.
I just couldn't get him to commit properly. And I said, all right, well, I'll switch back to a set of trebles because they were. But once again, the bite was very hard. Like they were swiping at the lures and swiping at the plackies. They weren't eating it properly until that wind came up. When that wind came up, they were smoking it like a Cuban cigar. Like that lure was down all the way to the bib. Like
really,
yeah, they would take them, even those small fish.
Yeah, wow. So like
eating it from the front as well.
Okay, yeah. So like flicking a switch.
Yeah, those fish down there are very like temperamental when it comes to activity. As soon as you get a bit of a breeze, if it's like a 5-knot wind, they're not interested. It needs to be 10 plus. You get that 10 knots on that river system, and yeah, the front is your best bet. I actually forgot my sazanamis at home. Like I fished sazanamis down there too, especially on the flats and the shallow stuff, and I forgot them. And Cromo told me afterwards he got some fish on sazanamis, and I was like, oh yeah, well, doesn't help you come unprepared and you don't have them there. But it's a fantastic venue. It was such a diverse way of fishing it. Like, and I think over years, I think it's been figuring out how to do it, and that's what brings consistency. I mean, there's guys there that do their little milk run, and it always works for them because they know how to fish it, and you work those patterns out. It's the same with me and the baits that I use there. I don't change much. I believe that fish don't change as much either. They either eat bait fish or they eat crustaceans, and they do it at different times of year. I find June, July, around that July, August mainly, they start feeding more on crustaceans. So they start eating all the barnacles and stuff, and it's just before they spawn in October, around October, if we get those rains in. All the bait fish wash to the front, and now all they got to live on is the crustaceans. So they start chewing crustaceans, and when the fish normally start spawning, I find it in the swan as well. Sorry, I'm going a bit off topic here now, but I find the same thing. They feed on crustaceans just before they spawn, and you can see it because they almost like grind their teeth down, kind of, it rounds them off a bit. And then when the spawn comes back on and the water washes, that you don't have your rains anymore and the water pushes back up and the bait fish comes with the water, they start eating bait fish again.
Yeah, that's a very cool observation. All right. You ended up in second place just by a pretty narrow margin. What did you end up taking home for second place?
Mate, like, we actually had a good chat about this, some of the other guys and the non-boaters, and I was like, look, in these comps, I would rather be a non-boater sometimes than a boater because the prize packs are just phenomenal. Like, I mean, what Daiwa has provided is just crazy. Like, I walked away with a lure pack probably worth $400. Like,
wow,
all hard bodies. Like, I mean, from shallow cranks all the way to deep cranks to jerk baits. I mean, I've got enough there to last me for the next 10 years. So
nice. And was there any Sazanamis?
No says an army's in there. So I might have to speak to Mr. Slater himself.
Fair enough. Oh, very good. And you would have got a second place badge. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. Look, I've like I said before, I've accumulated a few of them now. I would like to have one of those ones with a number 1 on the front of it. That'd
number
be great.
1 on it. Yeah, fair enough. All right, mate. Last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Yeah, look, you can't go past the guys from ABT. If you want to run a comp and you want to know how to run a comp, there's the biggest example, the best example is right there. Their motto is absolutely fantastic. Who shares wins. It's just true. And the work that Nicole and Steve and the guys put in, you can see the passion. So thanks to them, thanks to ABT. Then I want to thank the water crew, like our crew, for running it for us this year. I want to thank Cromo and the guys that come over from over east, the guys from Tassie. I really think that's another point that we should bring up, is that there should be some kind of bonus points for people traveling that's willing to go out of their way to travel that extra distance. I think it will push a lot of people to travel and do it.
Yeah.
I think it will just improve the numbers over time, but that's a conversation for a different time. And then obviously Alex and Dowley, my 2 boaters, and then my wife for letting me sneak away and looking after the kids. Yeah, look, without her supporting me and letting me do these things, I can't do it. I can't go and slip away for a weekend. And then obviously thank yourself for inviting me on here, mate, and giving me a chance to chat about something that we're both very passionate about.
Exactly. Well, mate, it was a pleasure to have you back on. And yeah, it did bring back a couple of memories when I look back through the messages and what have you. So, all right, mate. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. Congratulations. And yeah, hopefully we get to have a talk to you again sooner than this time.
Absolutely. We're going to try. We can't promise anything. Hopefully Tassie happens next year for me. That would be fantastic.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. I'll speak to you soon.
No worries. Thank you very much, mate. Have a good one.
Coming in first place in the non-boated division, I have an angler dropping his 3 fish for 1.43 on the Saturday, backing it up on the Sunday with 3 fish for 0.95, giving him a total of 2.38 kilos for his 6 fish and the win. I'd like to welcome back to the Bream Fishing Project, Ben Oakes. Welcome, mate.
Hi, Andrew, and thank you. Thank you for having me back on your show.
Mate, we're on the show again. How good's that?
Yeah, it's awesome. No, I really appreciate it. Yeah, being on your show, it's almost as good as winning an ABT.
Good on you. And mate, and with the win, and we'll get into this later, but mate, I think you get an invite to the grand final.
Yeah, that's pretty special. Yeah, I can't think of anything I'd like to do more than that. Yeah, go over there and fish with a few of the East Coast boaters. It's going to be great.
That's it. It's in Victoria. I can't remember whether we've released it, but it's in Victoria. So how cool is that?
Yeah, it's good. It's right up my alley with the Black Bream and that. But yeah, like the venues in the Gold Coast and those sorts of areas, they sort of worry me a little bit because the Bream are a little bit different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
At least it's probably going to be in my wheelhouse a little bit more down that way.
Yeah, exactly that. Like you're fishing for blacks, like your technique should work just about the same. So yeah, you'll be a fighting chance.
Yeah, here's hoping anyway.
Fair enough. All right, mate. We're on the Blackwood. Tell us, did you get out to have a look around before the comp?
Yeah, so I'm pretty lucky. I'm just under 2 hours from the Blackwood. So it's almost my local. So yeah, I fish it reasonably regularly, just when I can. And yeah, I got out, I think it was 2 weeks before, and like the preceding weeks coming up as well. I fished it a fair bit.
Okay. And have you noticed, like, did it prepare you for the comp? Did you have an idea of what you wanted to throw?
Yeah. No, I definitely had, I carry 5 rods with me. And I had lures on all 5 rods that I knew I could catch fish with. Very good.
All right. Well, tell us about Saturday, mate. Who did you get paired up with and what did you guys go and do to target the bream?
Yeah, so on day one, I had a fellow named Steve Yardy. Yeah, I was pretty happy to get him. He's just like a really friendly, relaxed guy. Yeah, we had a really good time fishing together. So we just went up river and started hitting some banks up that way. The bite was a little tricky, to be honest. And I think it might have had something to do with like the cooling trend that we've had. So the water had been cooling for the last few weeks. And on the 2 days of the comp, we also had like blue skies with no clouds and very little wind. And the wind that we did had was actually holding up the tide, going in the opposite direction. So it didn't help us much. So the bite was a little tricky. So we were getting a lot of tail grabs and the fish weren't really committing to taking the lures well. So I just started cycling through my baits. And when I got to my sprat, the fish were taking it a lot more aggressively, almost like a reaction bite, which was really great. So I was fishing it with a bit of a heavier head than you would traditionally. So the fall was quite speedy. It wasn't plummeting to the ground, but it was quite a fast fall. But it still wasn't too heavy, so it would still do that kick off to the side. And I think that fall with the kick to the side was very important in like triggering the bites.
Okay.
I think that's probably what got me the win on the weekend, really, was that sprat and that being able to trigger the fish. So, yeah, I just sort of basically lifted up through the water column and then sort of as it fall, they were just picking it up on the fall. And, yeah, it was a really strong bite and they were hitting it on the head.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a reaction bite, like an instinctual bite. Yeah, so we're just going along and, yeah, every now and again we'd just get the really strong bite on the sprat. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, okay. So when you were fishing that, were you like throwing in, like what was the structure like? Were you throwing in tight to edges or out the middle or what was that like?
Yeah, so we were fishing an edge, but we were just sort of fishing like shallow sandy areas. So the bites were sort of like a metre of water, maybe 1.5 to the deepest was sort of the banks we were fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they were definitely responding to that sprat like a lot more aggressively than anything else that I was fishing. That was good.
Okay. And one of the things you said that I didn't quite understand is you said they were hitting it on the head. What made you say that?
Yeah, so I went from like fishing other lures that were getting tail grabs to like a proper bite, so like a proper tap when they hit it, and I could easily set the hook. So I was pretty certain that they were hitting it straight on the hook, like straight on the head, and they were trying to eat it like head first.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the sprats have been amazing over the last sort of 2-3 years and caught a lot of fish. What's your colour of choice at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm pretty basic with my colours. I throw one colour sprat, which is the cleaver, which is like a green colour.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it just looks like a prawn to me. So when I'm fishing it, I'll fish it like a prawn. That colour to me looks most like a prawn. The prawns we've got over here anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think when you come over to the eastern states, you're going to probably go all right in that colour as well.
Yeah, good.
All right. In terms of the fish, you end up with 1.43. Did you get a bunch of fish for the day or was it just, how was that?
Yeah, I got a fair few on the sprat. It was working pretty good. Yeah. It probably wasn't more than maybe 10 legals for the day, but I found it was the one that was getting the legals. I really enjoy that sort of fishing as well with that reactive bite, especially being at the back of the boat. It sort of makes me feel like I've got more chance of getting a good fish as well.
Yeah.
Because especially on those really like clear, bright, sunny days with the water's really clear, and I feel like the fish are sensing the boat a lot earlier than they normally would. So I feel like that window sometimes, and the 2 days of the comp, the window was very tight to catch the fish before they sort of noticed the boat. And I feel like that getting that more instinctual response from the fish was more likely to actually get the good ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't remember what size head you had, but having a bit heavier head also gives you a little bit more casting distance and all that sort of stuff as well, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't really need the casting distance.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was in against the bank, but it was more the speed. It's only a 1/16th, but traditionally you'd run a lot lighter than that. But yeah, it just gives it a nice fall rate, and then it kind of just, you know how they curve off to the side on the way down? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I just feel like that. Anything that curves off to the side like that in a fairly rapid sort of speed, I think that's what sort of triggers them to eat it instinctually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's quite an interesting observation. And in terms of leader, what were you running for the comp?
So I just run the 4 pound all weekend because it was pretty sunny and still. I just used the old school Sunline FC rock. Yeah, just because it comes in the big spools, and yeah, it's what I've always used. I'm pretty happy with it.
Fair enough. All right. On the Saturday, you end up with 1.43. Whereabouts were you overnight?
Yeah, so sitting first, but only just. I think I had a Michael Samut. He was behind me by like 10 grams or something. It was pretty close. Yeah.
Oh, so he was last year's winner. So he would have been chomping at the bit, I'd imagine.
Yeah. He can't have it 2 years in a row. Seriously.
Fair enough. All right. Sunday morning, who did you get paired up with and how did you go? Because obviously it looks like you had a bit tougher day. How was it?
Yeah, it was tough, like you said. So, yeah, I was lucky enough to get Paul Samasco, though. So I was pretty happy with that. So, yeah, as you know, Paul, he's the chilled out dude that's got like nerves of steel that does the presentations and the weigh-ins for WADA. It's one of the organisers.
Yep. Previous guest.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that and stoked. Like, obviously know him well and I'm friends with him, but I'd never actually fished with him before for some reason. So it was good to get out there, buzzing around in the luxury of his bass boat. That was pretty nice too. Yeah.
Very good. How'd the fish come? Like, did you get them early or late? And was it the same sort of structure?
Oh, man. We fished different areas, obviously, but it was definitely a little bit tougher. So I assume what happened was that, so Saturday night, we had a fairly cold night. Like, it was pretty chilly. It was definitely colder on that Sunday morning than it was the day before. And I think what it did was the upriver stuff anyway, it would have cooled that water down on the surface a lot.
Yeah.
It was like the fish went from looking up and taking my sprat to like basically looking down, taking slow moving stuff. Because, yeah, I fished my sprat for a few hours and was getting nothing on it. It was like a light switch had turned off. And Paulie was getting a few fish. I sort of become aware that if I just stuck to the sprat all day, it might win it for me, but I was running out of time and I thought it might actually cost me the win. So I started rotating through my other baits, and that's when I worked out they'd definitely gone from looking up to looking down and more grubbing around and chasing the slower moving, but easier to catch baits. So I started throwing the craw, the Z-Man craw. I just drag them along the ground and I started picking up fish. And then I also threw, depending on what bank I was on, I also threw a slim swim, which I got fish on as well. But just again, just that slow roll, right, keeping contact with the bottom. And also the baby vibe was key as well and getting a few upgrades later on in the day. Yeah.
One of my favourites. Okay, so with your plastics, did you go up another size in jig heads? Did you go up heavier than the 1/16th?
Oh, like with the sprat beforehand?
No. When you realised they were on the bottom and you'd swapped out.
Yeah, no. So I've got all my plastics all pre-rigged. So I throw a lot of things on standard size. I don't actually change my weights a lot. I do with the sprat a little bit, but my craws and my slim swims and that, I've pretty much got them all glued up in the packets, ready to go. So I just tie them on, throw them. So yeah, I was throwing the craws. They're on a 1/8, so a really heavy head.
Okay, yeah.
And the slim swims are also a 1/12 and a 1/8, so heavy heads. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And baby vibes, they're not very heavy, but you get them to the bottom. Yeah.
Okay, and I know I probably asked this before. Are you a one hook on the baby vibe or two?
Yeah, so I'm a West Aussie, so just the one on the back.
Just the one? Yeah, fair enough. I still can't bring myself to do it. I reckon you get more hookups on the double.
Yeah, you do, but I think the advantage of running the 114 on the back is that you can pull a little bit harder on it. They're less likely to get crushed in the big fish's mouth, and they don't hook up over the line as much. So you know how your baby vibe, the front treble gets hooked up over the line? It doesn't sort of happen as much.
Yeah, okay.
But also, yeah, I just don't like those really tiny 16 size hooks. But when I'm fishing a baby vibe with just the one treble on the back, I'm very confident that I can throw it into pretty much any territory that I want and I can walk it out. Whereas when I'm fishing with the front treble, I feel like it will just slide over and hook into the timber.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. It's one thing, because I've played with both, but definitely much more snag resistant without that front hook.
It's amazing. What you can do with them is like, it shouldn't be happening, but yeah, just the way they just walk out, you're just like, how does this happen? But it happens, yeah.
It really, really does. Well, there you go. All right. And last thing on the fishing, on the Sunday, how many legals did you put in the boat?
Yeah, so it took me till, because I fished the Sprat for a while with determination, but it took me until about lunchtime to get a bag, and I only just had a bag as well. So a couple of them were only 26.3 or something, like small. And then, those last couple of hours, I got a few little upgrades, but still, the bag wasn't even a kilo. It was just under a kilo at the end of the day. So I got maybe 6 legals all day.
Yeah, and you end up winning by 70 grams. So those little upgrades were crucial.
Yeah, I had the balance beam out, and I'm glad that I did, because sometimes when you're, in a bit of a flurry, you don't sort of worry too much about doing the weights perfectly. But no, I did, and it didn't cost me, which was good.
Absolutely. All right. I reckon we've covered everything there. Actually, the only thing we haven't covered is your rod and reel of choice.
Yeah, so I've still got my old Daiwa reels. I run all Daiwa reels. I've got the old ones, 2506 size, Luviuses and Certates I run. So I haven't upgraded them yet because they changed the spool size on me. And so I've got many, many spools with like fluoro and all sorts of stuff, different size lines, and I tie spare leaders. I have the spools ready to go, so I don't have to tie an FG in the kayak unless I need to. So
okay,
I'm a bit stubborn, whereas I haven't upgraded them because of that, because I need all my spools and everything to match. So I use the old reels. But with my rods, on the weekend, I was throwing the Sprat on the Infeet EX 742s with a solid tip.
Okay.
Yep. I was throwing everything else. I've got several of the EX 752s. They're such a great rod, those. They're pretty light, but they're really nice. They're like as close to an all-round rod as I've ever sort of come across.
Yeah, okay.
Although they're very long.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, I was talking to Morgo, and he's like, I'm not sure whether the EX stands for expensive, but they are expensive, but good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, they're good. They're nice.
So,
yeah.
Very good. All right. I reckon that's a pretty good rundown. What you get to take home for first place?
Yeah, so I won the 2 large Daiwa packs. So I got a heap of gear. Like you could basically just take those packs out and go fishing. Like it's like a full setup for someone. Yeah. So
awesome.
I think I got like a dozen of the rolling cranks and like 3 or 4 of the Kadashis, 3 or 4 of the spikes. I got a bunch of the new 295 flicks, which I haven't tried. So that's good, because I'm assuming they'll fish similar to a Sprat. Yeah, they got that funny like little sherbet spoon thing on the back tail.
Yeah, very, very finesse. Nice little bait.
Yeah.
So did you get the 235 prawns in it as well?
No, there's no prawns in it, which is a bit disappointing, because I would have definitely thrown them. There's just the regular grubs, and also what's the longer grubs that look a bit more like a squidgy?
The wave minnow?
Yeah, the wave minnow, which I've used and I don't mind them. They're pretty good. The blacks seem to like them.
Save them for the grand final, mate.
Yeah.
So,
it's the way they go through the water. It's like, I don't know. They just look like a prawn, I guess. You know how they have that swim? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Also there's a bunch of stuff I'll forget, but there's leader, that new excellent leader that everyone says is really good.
Nice.
Got some of that.
Yep.
But I mean, that stuff's all really good, but really the ABT trophy is like, that's really what I wanted.
Yeah, so good. ABT trophy, you got a badge and a trip over east at the end of the year.
Yeah. No, it's good. Because, I mean, a lot of the times the East Coasters fly over and they take it out for the non-boater spot. So, I was pretty proud to be able to win that for WA. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Also, look, is there anyone else you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so my boaters, so Yardy, Steve Yarwood and Paul Samasco, obviously those guys. It was really good hanging out with them. So thanks a lot, fellas. And the other competitors who competed, like everyone, quite a few people made the effort to come over from the eastern states as well to compete this round, like a lot. There was a lot of eastern stater non-boaters. So, thanks for that. That was awesome. ABT also for allocating the qualifying round this year in WA. The WADA guys that actually run the event as well. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, perfect. All right, mate. Well, congratulations once again. Maybe we'll get to talk to you after the grand final.
Yeah, let's hope so. All right. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, mate.
Okay, so first up in a third place for the boating division, we have an angler dropping his 5 fish for 2.010 on the Saturday, backing it up on the Sunday with 5 fish for 1.63, giving him a total bag weight of 3.64. And third place, I've got Mark Crompton. Welcome back to the show, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me again. This seems to be a regular thing at the moment, doesn't it? I don't mind it.
That's it, mate. Week on, week off sort of thing. And we've got more coming up.
Yep, plenty of events.
Definitely. And look, you've ducked across to Western Australia to obviously take advantage of that situation there and then come up with a really good result.
Yeah, look, I've had that thrown out there a couple of times. I take advantage of points and things like that. It's never been about that for me. I put my name down at the beginning of the year for every event. I'm going to do every event regardless of how I'm going. I could be donutting the first 4 or 5 events. It wouldn't bother me. I'm going there anyway. Love WA. The Blackwood's a cracker. The systems over there are just different to what we get here. So, yeah, it's always really good fun to get to the Blackwood.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, that's actually pretty good to hear. I think for this round, I think we'll get into it in a minute, a little bit different to what you might be used to over there.
It is. And that's why I like to go there. The snag fishery over there is something spectacular. We get snags here, but we don't get the snags like they get, mate. Like these things are oyster encrusted and 14 to 20 pound line just sneezes at it and it's pops. So it's different to what we get. It's different to what I'm able to experience here. I can go and fish snags here up around the Central Coast and things like that. Those snags you can get fish out of. These snags over there, you cannot. It will not happen. So it's cool. It's cool.
Oh, very good. Very good. All right, mate. Tell us about your pre-fish. I heard that you got out for a bit of a run with Michael on his boat, and tell us how that went.
Oh, it was always a good day up there fishing with Michael, that's for sure. And I said to him at the beginning, I'm not going to go and not catch fish today. I've only got 3 days to fish on the Blackwood. I'm not going to go and do your standard pre-fish and not try and hook fish. I just went and had a good time and just laid into them. Stuff it, who cares? And we ended up with probably easily over, I would say, 3 kilos for my best 5 on the pre-fish day. And I don't know, that's not necessarily a bad thing because, you fish in areas of water that I probably wasn't going to fish too heavily. I already had a fair bit of a game plan in my mind of where I wanted to fish even before I'd landed on the plane.
Mm.
And there were more zones that I'd never fished before. And
okay,
I like to do that when I go to the wood. It's just, go and fish areas that you don't or haven't fished. Last year I went right up river. I have no doubt that, that's obviously where I got one. We'll get into my theory on that later on, but I said I wouldn't go and do that again just because of the fact I'm not going to waste my time just doing the same thing over and over again. So completely different set of scenarios. And I believe what I'd done actually worked. I just got unlucky. So, and we'll go through it.
Yeah, cool. Let's go around to comp day. Tell us about your day and how it started in the fog, mate.
Yeah, so day one for me, I went right down the front and fished. I believe it's West Bay, North Bay. I get it mixed up. It's the bigger one of the two, whichever bay it is. Anyway, on pre-fish, we'd gone down there and there were just trillions of fish, mate. So I'd sort of been trying to follow the dolphins. I find in those systems and in some of the systems down there, the dolphins are actually eating bream. So wherever I could see dolphins, I was sort of going to those zones to try and look for bream, and I was finding them. So I'd seen dolphins down around that sort of area on the pre-fish day, and when we'd actually gone in there and fished in close and looked in close, shallower than where the dolphins could get to, it was just full of bream. That was where I'd gone to on day one. That worked really well. Probably dropped 10 times more fish than I landed, and I probably landed 100 fish in the day. So
wow.
You're pulling hooks on a lot, but I'd seem to have hooked the right fish. I had one in the boat early that was 29 fork, and that one actually turned upside down on me. I'd sort of gill hooked it a little bit, probably removed a hook a little bit prematurely, and it died. And it turns out on the final day, if I removed my smallest fish was 24 and a half fork, you remove that a 29 and a half fork and put the 24 and a half fork in there, there's the winning score weight. So that cost me the win. if I'd been able to weigh that fish, I'd have won by probably 20 grams, but if not more. So
Yeah, right.
that sort of stings. But it's a difficult one because in hindsight, you go back and you go, what could I have done differently? Absolutely nothing. So the bigger fish were definitely downriver. Everyone's sort of saying, oh, they were upriver and sulking and this, that and the other. The numbers of bigger fish that I saw on pre-fish day and on day one were definitely downriver. Hooking them was a different story. But I think those dolphins, once they go in there and they give them a rev up, then they go to ground. Where they go from there, I'm not too sure, but I think they go into the shallows shallow enough so that the dolphins can't get to them and your boat can't get there either. That's my theory on it. I think those dolphins are really giving them a rev up. So,
well, there you go. But you said you caught a bunch of fish. What'd you get them on?
Predominantly on Duros and what else? Day one, I was using the small mussel and sazanami. A lot of my fish in the afternoon, a couple of good upgrades in the afternoon on the sazanami. So that was a key lure, and that ended up being a key lure for me on day two as well. Got a few fish on brim prawns. The sazanami was just the perfect imitation of the bait fish that I could see at the time. Little shimmering sort of bait fish that weren't fat, they were sort of longer. Yeah, sazanami just thrown, long cast, and not even doing anything, just shaking the shit out of it until it sort of got the bite. So they're little that you can sort of, the more you shake it, they'll sort of just shake and sort of slow sink when they're shaking, when you're shaking them. And then as soon as you stop, they'll just slowly float back up to the surface and you've basically got a bent minnow again. They're a really, really good lure like that, mate. I love them.
All right. So you predominantly got your fish, or you got some of your better fish on the sazanami. What rod and reel, what setup would you have running with that one?
On the sazanami, that one, I was running, I think it's the 7.4 LFS, the longer in-feet EX, only so I could get long casts. I don't generally use that rod. It's a bit stiff, but I needed that long cast and to be able to give sharp twitch. So that's the rod I chose for it there. That's not normally the rod that I'll use for that, but it worked for that scenario.
Yeah, okay. Because I don't know, you're on Braden leader or straight through?
No, Braden leader.
Yeah, okay.
Braden leader. I don't find I can get the twitch good enough with straight through.
Yeah. So you came back with just over 2 kilos. Whereabouts did that have you overnight?
I was in the lead.
In the lead?
Yeah, wasn't expecting that, that's for sure. You come back with a handful of crap fish and you think, yeah, that might have me half midfield, top 5 at least. But to have me in the lead, it was just a testament to how small the fish there at the moment. Like compared to last year and the year before, the fish size just seems to be going down and down and down, but the numbers seem to be going up and up and up.
Yeah.
A lot more fish caught this year for me compared to last year. But, yeah, just the size was just terrible.
Yeah, right. Okay. So leading out on the Sunday, what was your game plan? Like, what was your plan on doing?
So my game plan was much similar to day one because of the number of fish that I'd sort of seen and caught, and I hadn't hammered it too hard on day one. But, yeah, I went in there with stingers on day two just to sort of fill a bag pretty quick, and that got me a bag pretty early, a bag of 5, just sort of 26, 27 tippers, and then rolled from there. I was waiting for the wind to come up on the flat a little bit more. It was pretty glassed out, so then I raced upriver, had a fish upriver on a couple of banks, but I was sort of doing that against my own heart because I really didn't want to fish upriver this year. Like I said, I wanted to try and spend as much time downriver. I had a spare on Sunday, so I was solo and I didn't have to worry about trying to help someone else get their fish as well. I went upriver for a touch and then I went, nah, look, I'm not feeling it. I'll head back down. And on my way back down, just through past the van park and whatnot, I thought I'll have a chuck at a couple of the snags, just fishing the spots hidden in plain sight. Normally you'll see someone fishing through there and there was no one, so I stopped and had a fish through that, and I picked up a couple of real key upgrades through there. So then from there I sort of headed back out towards I think it's the Western Bay, and then just continued to sort of just pinch upgrades. And that was all sazanami. That was all Sazanami. So I found then by the time the tide had come up a little bit, the Sazanami you were able to fish it across the cockleweed beds a bit better because it wasn't hooking them as much.
Yeah.
That was sort of my key lure there. But brim prawns when I was fishing the edges back at along the van park and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And, Sazanami on the flats.
Yeah, right. And with the Sazanami, do you have it? Was there any particular colour that was working or not working?
It was either, I think it's Adele rice fish.
Okay.
Or not Suji shrimp. It's another, I can't remember the name of the other colour. It's got like a green sort of a belly to it, but it's a bit of a shrimp imitation.
Okay. But a natural colour, I guess.
Yeah, I think, truth be told, I think it's more about the presentation than the colour, more about the action of just giving it that shake and getting the fish to get to the stage where they just have to crack it.
Fair enough. I reckon that pretty much covers it. I reckon that pretty much covers it.
Covers most of the cards, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said you lost one turn belly up on you. Did you lose any other fish that, like, in the fight? Like, did you miss anything you're going, that was a good one?
Yeah, I got broken off a couple of times in the middle of the day where I'd picked up a couple of upgrades near the van park.
Yeah.
I got broken off 3 times there, and each of those were sort of your 29 fork. I mean, I really only weighed in a bag of 27 tippers and one that was 33 fork. So you put a couple of 29 forks in there and bang, you got the win. So there's definitely a few opportunities there that I know that I lost it. So that's fishing though, right? Like, I've had my fair share of bad luck at events over this year, and I'll crack at one event this year, I'm sure. I've got a lot of confidence in my fishing at the moment. Things just seem to be clicking really well. All my gear's just running perfectly. I really feel like I'm on it, and I'm finding those fish every event.
Yeah.
Every event that I've been within the earshot to win it, or at least been in the zone to win it. Hopefully one of these ones this year, I can I can put it together.
Oh, exactly. And with not just yourself, but all the competitors in this particular event, you were all one upgrade from winning. You just one good fish.
Yeah.
All the second, third places. Like, it was a close event.
Yeah.
In terms of the weigh-in, did you weigh in early or late, or like did you have to sit in line and think about it, sort of thing?
Well, I mean, there was only 15 of us weighing, 30 total with the non-boaters. So, no, it was over pretty quick, mate, compared to a standard event. But at the same time, it's a nice van park there and it's a nice atmosphere. So it's good just to chill out and let the boys roll through it and enjoy what's going on there. So
yeah, very good. Very good. All right, mate, third place, what did you get to take home?
I think I took the second Mercury bonus. So, again, pinching those from Mercury, which is owed to me, I will say. So, trying to steal everything from Mercury I possibly can. But and then I won $500 for the third, taking the third. So that was, a good little purse to put some cash back into the bank for the next event. So
100%. 100%. All right, mate. Last thing, mate, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, obviously my wife and little boy Alvie for coming along. They had a great time. But Michael Samet and Isabel Samet, we stayed together along with Joey and his partner. We all stayed together and had a good. Sorry, Oana. I went brain dead for a second there. Remember Oana's name. But yeah, we bunked together and had a good time. Michael obviously set me up with his boat, looked after me like the great mate he is, and really enjoyed being able to get out with him, fish with him, go through his boat with him that he's just set up. And I think he appreciates a bit of the open commentary about how to set the boat up right and what's key. And I honestly believe with all the power pole gear he's got on that boat now, that's the best set up boat in WA for bream fishing over there, for sure, hands down.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to use, and I thank him very much for letting me use that. All my Daiwa gear, again, as always, love to thank the guys at Daiwa. Obviously, the Sazanami as a standout. I dare say that will play a part in future events down there because that's the perfect size for their bait. They used to have the old Riggy 56F. That used to be a standout lure down there. I threw it this weekend, got a couple of touches on it, but it did not work anywhere near as well as the Sazanami. So If the guys out there are wondering, go and get a handful of them, try them. I don't lie about what I use or throw. So I think it's a testament to the lure that Taka and Tom and the boys have designed there. That's a cracker. So, yeah, thanks to Daiwa. Lowrance for the support. Obviously, I didn't really have any Lowrance gear to use on the boat this time, being a lender, but the support from Lowrance this year has been second to none. And I thank them for the support that helps me do the events moving into the future. So, yeah, they're really good support there from my sponsors.
Very good. Very good. All right, mate. Well, as always, good to have a chat. Good luck in the upcoming ABTs. This will be an interesting round.
It will be. It will be. I'm really looking forward to it. Foster, 6 days on Foster. That's it. Mate, regardless of what's going to be going on, I'm going to be smashing some racks.
The only thing that could be better if you're in a kayak.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I do not buy it. That place is way too big to pedal in most of the day. It's having a nice 200 horsepower to zip around is definitely my favour. I'll save my legs for working the rest of the days I've got to work. Thanks.
Yeah, well, mate, having said that, mate, it will be a very interesting round with all the water that's around up there.
Yeah, for sure.
6 days on one system. Don't remember if that's been done before.
No.
But it'll be, I can't wait for it.
Yeah, it'll be good. I think there'll be some broken hearts, some broken gear and some scratch boats, mate. I guarantee it.
Very good. Very good. All right, mate, that's terrific. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Cheers. Catch up soon, mate. Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
So up next in second place in the boating division, we have an angler dropping his 5 fish for 1.98 on the Saturday, backing it up on the Sunday with 5 fish for 1.79, giving him a total bag weight of 3.77 kilos. I'd like to welcome back to the Bream Fishing Project, Greg Cooper. Welcome back, mate.
Thank you, Andrew.
Mate, another good result over there. But like I was saying before we hit record, just the weights are a little bit down this year.
Yeah, they're surprisingly down right across the whole field. It was a bit of a shock for me to finish second with the small bags I got. There was no way. If you asked me coming into the weigh-in, I'd think I'd be lucky to finish in 10th. And it was just the fact that everybody else didn't get any fish either. So, yeah.
That's right. With your 10 fish for 3.77, that was about your 1 fish bag last year. Not one fish, but your day 1 or day 2 bag was about that size.
Yeah, I think day 1 last year was 3.5 kilos.
Yeah, right. Wow. Big turnaround.
Yeah, and I think Alex might have got 3.2 or something like that. So, yeah, way down on last year and the previous years, really.
Yeah, okay. All right. Never mind, mate. Look, leading into the competition, did you get around and have a look for a pre-fish?
Yeah, I did a couple of days pre-fishing, mainly down the flats because I was pretty comfortable upriver, but I thought I'll go and have a look around the flats, and over those 2 days I couldn't get any fish above 30 centimetres to the tip.
Okay.
I didn't think that was big enough for the competition, so competition day come, I sort of planned to go upriver.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, what we might do is we'll roll straight into competition day. Tell us a bit. Actually, I haven't checked the weather, but first of all, what was the weather like on day 1?
Day 1 was clear skies and no wind and foggy start. In the morning, we had a 8 kilometre limit on the river because of the fog, and we weren't allowed to travel any faster than 8 kilometres until the fog rose.
Yeah.
So I started off at the launch site, actually.
Yeah. Okay. How'd that go for you? Did you get any early?
Well, yeah, I started the launch site, and I just fished the tea trees near it. There's a barge that runs across the river, and I was just using brim prawns, and I lost a very, very big fish.
Ooh.
Because it was low tide, the tea tree snags are a little bit, they're not under the water as much as you'd like, and I just got a bit fouled up on a small twig, which I had the fish rolling around on top of the water, but eventually broke off. Yeah.
Ouch.
We didn't get any. Other than that, was the only decent fish I landed, really. And then I went upriver.
Okay. How'd you go upriver?
Very, very quiet. Probably by 9 o'clock, I probably lost another good fish on a big mussel on a rock bar, which actually this time it bit the hook off. It must have engulfed the whole lure and broke off. So I lost that fish. So at that stage, I've got nothing at 10 o'clock.
Really?
Then we go up. I went up a bit further and I got a couple of 27 tippers.
Yep.
And I thought, this is about 11 o'clock now, and I'm starting to think this is not looking good. So travelled up a bit further. I ran into Alex, and he said, "How you going?" I said, "I'm having a terrible day." I said, "I've only got 227 tippers."
Yep.
He said, "Well, I've only got 327 tippers."
Right.
So I said, "Oh, makes me feel good."
Yeah.
So anyway, I kept going upriver, and I probably had about tippers.
Yep.
And then I returned, started to come back, and I started fishing some deeper structure and with some baby vibes and some mussels. And I ended up upgrading my whole bag. So I ended up getting a couple of a 32 forker and a 28 forker and a 226 forkers. So come back, and I didn't think it was really enough, but I come back to the weigh, and it sort of I was sort of like still in the hunt for the next day.
Absolutely. And sorry, what do you get your fish on upriver?
Upriver, I got them on Dowley's Muss, which is the white one, and JoJo's Pygmy Mussel in the creamy colour.
Oh, right.
And the black, and the baby vibe, black baby vibe, really.
Yeah, okay. I've got a couple of both of those of Dowley's and JoJo's, and I've been reluctant to throw the cream or the lighter colour ones, but obviously they go all right.
Yeah. They just look like a what do you call it? Broken cockle. They're sort of like a crustacean that lives on structure.
Yeah.
You've got to put a little bit of black in them with a texture colour or something.
Okay.
They're a little bit pale, Joeys are. But
yeah.
They do the job.
Yeah.
They're not prone to snag as much as Dowley's one with the two hooks.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say they're different uses. So with JoJo's ones, so the blue lip bait ones, they were the micro ones, the bigger ones, or the pygmy ones?
I think they're called muddy. I think it's muddy or something. I think.
Very good. With those, do you kind of use them the same way as what JoJo does? You're trying to let them drift down with the current, so the current drags them?
No, I'm nearly teabagging them.
Okay.
I'm talking about I'm fishing them in probably 10 or 12 feet of water. So I'm probably losing every second one. So I catch a fish and lose a mussel.
Right.
It was good stuff.
And with the bream, are you finding they're swallowing them right down?
No, they weren't actually. No.
Interesting. All right.
Actually, the one I lost on the reef was a big mussel. One of Bream bait's bigger mussel, heavy.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Either way, mate, like you said, you came back with 1.98, which had you almost not far off the lead there. So still in touch. All right. Tell us about Sunday then. What was your plan leading out?
Sunday I had decided, we had the same problem. We had no wind. We had the fog again with an 8 knot limit. But I decided to go straight up the river this time because I was in third on the takeoff. I sort of was in front of the field all the way up, so I could pick my spot, pick where I wanted to go. And the same thing again, I really struggled to try and get fish. My first fish was a 30 forker.
Okay.
I'm on a dunk, probably at about 9 o'clock. So I thought, that's good. And I just kept going. And I really had a lot of confidence going up the river until about 12 o'clock. And I sort of hit the wall a bit then. But I didn't have money. I had a 30 forker and a couple of, and 30 forker, a 26 fork and a 24 forkers. And I've been catching a few more 24 forkers, which are about 27 tips. But there's a funny story there because I've got a bit of a reputation for only bringing in 4 fish on the final day, upgrading 4 fish all day. And at that stage, I went to get me lunch out of the console and noticed I still had a bloody cold tag hanging there. And I thought, Jesus, I've done this again. I felt instantly sick. I thought, this is going to be embarrassing going back with 4 fish again.
Yeah, after you've been throwing them back.
I sort of battled on. I noticed how my nerves were getting to me. I wasn't casting good. I was panicking. I think I've got to get another fish. And anyway, that was about 12 o'clock. And then I lost a real big one at about 1 o'clock where I got it out of the structure and I got it out in the middle of the river. And it was a really good fish, probably something over 800 grams anyway.
Yeah.
I pulled the hooks, and I
Oh.
thought that was the one I really needed. That was my fifth fish.
Yep.
And then I struggled big time from that point on. And 1:30, I got my fifth fish and on the cold tag. And I tell you what, it felt good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It was such a relief.
Definitely.
So, yeah. And then my non-boater pulled out the biggest bream of the tournament right behind me. So
Right.
sort of rubbed it in a little bit as well.
As you do.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, then I thought, I'll just head back to the weigh-in. Oh, that's about the best I can do. A bit sulking and thinking that's a terrible bag. And I weighed in at about 10th in the line, and I end up being the new leader.
Right.
I was shocked.
Hey.
Yeah, there was only more bag to come in, and that was Rob's. So
Wow.
it all turned out really good. But it went from being a disastrous 2 days of poor bags, thinking this is embarrassing. These bringing these small fish back to the weigh-in, and then end up coming second. So
Wow. Yeah.
it just goes to show you just hang in there.
Yeah. It can still happen, but late in the day, you would have been sweating bullets, I reckon.
Oh, it was a terrible feeling. It was so embarrassing. I felt sick.
Yeah.
It was made me feel really ill, thinking I'd thrown fish out all day, and I've done it again. I'm going to go back with 4 fish.
Oh, mate, lucky your cold tiger was hanging where you could see it, mate.
Yep.
And, mate, what did your last fish come on?
The last fish come on a bloodworm slim swim.
Okay.
Yeah. I gave the mussels away, and I went back to getting a bit desperate with the slim swim.
Yeah.
Because I thought the mussel vibes were getting the bigger fish, but then I thought I was getting really desperate. I was, I've got to try and do something here.
Yeah, that's it. You needed a fish.
But yeah. Anyway, it was a great weekend though. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Amongst all the anglers. Yeah.
Fair enough. What sort of leaders were you running for the comp?
Day one, I went really light. When I say light, I had a couple of 7-pound leaders for the structure, and I had 4-pound. I had a 4-pound and 5-pound for slim swims.
Okay. Yeah, so pretty standard.
Yeah.
All right. I reckon that's a pretty good rundown. For second place, mate, what did you get to take home?
And I got $1,000 and won the Mercury bonus, the first Mercury bonus, $250.
Very good. Very good. And a happy little badge, I'd imagine.
Yeah. It's little badge there.
Very good.
Second spot.
Very good. All right, mate. Last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to, say thank you to?
Yeah, I reckon a shout out to the East Coast guys that came across. It was good to see, they made up the numbers, and it was good to see them come across. The WA, the Wada crew, they actually run the show, Joey and Macca and Alex. They actually organised a social night on the Saturday night, which was about 40 people went to, and it was pretty good. ABT for running the events, and the round sponsor, Mercury.
Yeah.
For the $250 bonus.
What's that?
And Rob Dawson for winning. Good on him. He well-deserved win. And Ben Oakes for coming in, winning the non-boater.
Very good. All right, mate. That is brilliant, mate. Thanks for coming on the show again. Congratulations. And, good luck in the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, mate. Okay, and coming in first place in the boating division, I have an angler dropping 1.93 on the Saturday and 1.93 on the Sunday, giving him a total of 3.86. And the first place, I have Rob Dawson. Welcome back to the show, mate.
G'day, Andrew. How you going?
Good, mate. I don't think that's ever happened on the show before, where someone has weighed the same weight both days. That's amazing.
Yeah. I was pretty shocked myself when I actually, checked in on the weights. It's a pretty unusual thing, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very, very cool. Matt, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is last time when we spoke, just about this time last year, you were starting up a guiding service, I think Augusta Wildfish Tours or something like that. How's that going for you?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, no, it's getting really busy. Yeah, just building on what I've started. So, spending a lot more time on the water, taking people out and showing them how to catch fish on lures, which is, it's great. I love it.
Okay. After sort of a year or so of doing that, what's your main target species now?
Yeah, I target black bream is my main target, but we also get a lot of big yellowfin sand whiting. We get flounder and a lot of herring as well, which are Tommy Rough type of thing over your way. So yeah.
Okay, cool. In the year, has there been any unusual catches? You got any random species?
Gee, what have I got? We get the odd little pink snapper. No, I can't say I've got any unusual ones. No.
Any mulloway?
No, it's unusual. You'd think there'd be a lot in the Blackwood because it's kind of a system that you would think they'd be in. But yeah, we don't get a lot of mulloway. No.
Yeah, I thought over a year you might crack one. Anyway. All right, let's roll. I'm still getting over the 1.93 both days, but we're going to roll around to this. In terms of pre-fishing, were you out in the water to have a look around?
Yeah, look, mate, I was planning to fish down the bottom because I spend a lot of time down there doing tours, and I've got some pretty good spots. And yeah, I went down. I actually went up the back first. Actually, I had a friend with me, and I went right up the back, and there were a lot of fish up there, which was good. There were a lot of fish. So, that was my backup plan. And then I came down the front, tried, and, they just weren't there, and I just didn't think I could get a bag that was going to stack up both days. So, yeah, I kind of made my mind up to go right up the back again. So, yeah, that's how it kind of worked out.
Okay. And before we get into comp days, what's your sort of go-to lure selection for the Blackwood?
So when I'm fishing down the bottom, I fished I think it's a Colton minnow in a jackal, and also they're similar because I also fish a Durga, OSP Durga. Yeah, the only reason I fish the Colts is because they actually dive a little bit shallower, especially in the real shallow stuff. They don't pick up the weed as much.
Yeah, right.
And baby vibes and the brim prawns. Yeah, so it's a pretty...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If we go to the baby vibes, what's your colour of choice if you just had one?
Well, I'm not actually sure what colour it is, but it's like a yellowy green colour. You buy them in the packs. Yeah, and it seems to catch up there all the time. Yeah, so...
Oh, very nice. Very nice. All right. Tell us about comp day. Tell us, you ducked out in the morning. I'm told there was a bit of fog around. Tell us how your day started.
Yeah, well, we had the the morning started off, and we were restricted to 8 knots up the river, which was pretty tough because I've got to go a long way up. So yeah, that kind of held us back a bit. But it did manage to clear halfway up, so we managed to get a bit of a move on down the river. And then, yeah, I proceeded up to... I just had this spot where there was some big fish. I knew there was some big fish, and yeah, I started off on brim prawns and baby vibes. And yeah, we lost a couple of big fish earlier. No, Tom Scarce lost a couple and I lost a couple. They were really good fish. But we managed to kind of string a bag together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then also the other lure I used was up there was the dunk, the OSP dunk.
Okay.
And which I got my biggest fish on. Yeah.
Right. Okay. We'll just go through those. So if we start with the brim prawn, how are you rigging it over there? What are you putting it on?
Yeah, so I'm putting it on like a TT. It's like I don't know what they're the lightest weight you can probably get. So they're almost just hanging in the water system.
Yeah, okay. So like a 132 hidden weight.
Yeah,
sort of
hidden weight system, yep. We were actually like sight casting to the fish there. They were up on the banks, trying to get the big ones. You'd see them in the water and you'd try and cast to them and then just hopefully those little ones don't come and get to it first. It was, and then try and kind of alternate. Once you go off a bit of sand stretch, you'd be a bit of tea tree, so you'd put the baby vibe on and kind of drop it out the front of the tea tree, just down to get it a bit deeper. So kind of alternating through those two. And, then the dunk in certain areas as well, just trying to mix it up a bit.
Yeah, okay. And with the dunk then, are you casting that into the shore and like tight to the shore and rolling it out, or what did that look like?
Yeah. So the banks, so on the Blackwood, there's usually a shallow bank and then there's a deep bank. So with that dunk, they kind of dive pretty steep pretty quick. So, yeah, you're trying to get it tied up and then pull it back off that steep bank to try and get it down in that strike zone. So yeah, that's the main way.
Yeah.
Use them.
Yeah. And with the same with those, were you able to sight cast with the dunks?
No, that was more or less just you're just working your way along a bank trying to cover ground. So yeah.
Okay. All right. And so you ended up with, so your 5 fish went 1.93. Was there any standout fish in the bag?
Yeah, there was. There was one that went 550. Yeah, and got him on the dunk. Yeah, so it was just more or less working through. There's caught a lot of little ones as well. So, but yeah, that big one came off a kind of a bit of a corner, which is with some deep banks. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm told it's a pretty snaggy area over there. So what sort of leader were you running for the comp?
So up the back there, because it's fresh water a lot more of the time than it is down the bottom, you don't get that barnacles on the tree. So you can go a little bit lighter. So I was fishing 4 and 5. If it gets wrapped around a tree, sometimes you got half a chance of getting them out. So it's not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. All right. You came back with 1.93. You would have been at the top of the leaderboard, but what position were you overnight?
I was in fifth.
In fifth. Okay. Okay, well, there you go. All right. Leading out day 2, what was your plan and how did it go for you?
Yeah, look, the funny thing was I actually said to Greg Cooper, I said to Coops, I was having a chat to him and I said, mate, I'm going to go up there and I reckon I've got this spot and I'm going to smash them on dunks today.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, yeah. I went, yep, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to smash them on dunks. And that's what happened. I went up there and I wanted to get to this spot at a certain time when there seemed to be a bit of a run in the tide up to about 11 o'clock. And so I got to this spot. Yeah, and it just kind of turned on a bit on dunks. And I pulled 2 fish in, 2 good fish in 2 casts. And it was just on for the next hour type things on dunk. It was one of those great little runs you have when you're fishing.
Yeah, okay. So with your dunks, did you have a particular colour that worked for you?
Yeah, I kind of fish a lot of natural colours, like the greens these days. So it's more it's like a greeny, silvery colour. Yeah, so it's that green kind of natural bait colour that kind of pretty prevalent in the Blackwood.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you guys, like over here, if I'm fishing edges, we can pretty much slow roll and get them. But if you're fishing blacks, do you have to twitch and pause and that sort of stuff?
No, I wasn't actually. I was just a slow wind. Yeah, that came from the pre-fish too. It was. Yeah, I found the dunks don't really work great on a twitch. They're a little bit too erratic. They're not too. Yeah, they're just not like a stable lure, like a jerk bait. So I was kind of just a real slow wind. And just kind of get off that 3 meters off the bank, and they were just hitting it.
Yeah. Okay. And to get off topic a little bit, is that a lure that you would tie on if you were guiding someone? Is that something you would use often?
No, just because the cost of them. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay.
But they do. They're a great lure on the Blackwood. Yeah, especially because of those deep banks. They cover some ground down deep. So especially the fish. Yeah, they seem to be just that little bit deeper as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm told there's a few lures coming out in the similar sort of vein, so it'll be interesting to see how they go.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So in terms of the fishing, did you get fish all day or did it sort of peter out towards the end?
No, look, about 11 o'clock, 11:30, it petered out. Yeah, I went up to this spot that I knew had big bream in it and I got up there and it was just dead. Yeah. And so I even came back to where I started, kind of left, where the fish were kind of still biting a bit when I left because I kind of wanted to get up to this good spot. And it had quietened down. I just think the tide had pushed up and the flow had kind of stopped, which is, it's pretty important on the Blackwood. It kind of needs that bit of flow.
Yeah. I was looking at, while you were talking, I was looking at the tides on the Saturday. The tide that I have is 11:30 a.m. for the high, and on the Sunday was 12:13.
Yep. Yeah, that's about spot on. Yeah, and because with the water, it's banking up, pushing up there a little bit further, it kind of stops a bit early. earlier. So, yeah, that'd be about spot on, when it kind of started to drop off. But, I mean, look, we're catching them on bream prawns, but it's just hard to get those big ones, there's so many little ones in there. You're trying to sight cast to the big ones hanging right on the bank. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, look, last thing to do with the fishing, did you have a particular rod-reel combo that was working for you?
Yeah, I use a Shimano Zodius. It's pretty stiff rod with a Daiwa BREAM. Yeah, and that's rigged with I actually use a lot of 8-pound Expedition Daiwa braid. Yeah, just because of the when the wind's blowing, I don't seem to get as many wind knots up and yeah, with the 5-pound Daiwa X-Link as well, and that was that's just a great rod for extracting those big fish in heavy timber. It's pretty stiff, but yeah, they've got to work pretty hard to get back in there once they're hooked.
Very good. All right, mate. So I'm sure with your bag of 1.93, I don't expect that you would have been super confident coming back in. Whereabouts did you weigh in? Did you weigh in at the start or the finish or the end?
Well, funnily enough, you know what? I just had a feeling that it was going to be tough again because there were so many guys went down the bottom. So, yeah, I was actually quietly confident that if I got that 1.9 up or 2 kilos, I'd be in the mix.
Yeah, right.
And the boys were coming in going, everybody didn't go so well. So I was quietly confident, that I was going to be up there.
Very good. Very good. All right. For first place, what do you get to take home?
So I got the trophy and the $2,000, which is brilliant. Yeah, it's nothing like a good trophy to sit on the mantelpiece and reflect on the couple of days fishing. So it was good.
Yeah, fantastic. And I'd imagine that you got a spot in the grand final.
Yep, I did, mate. Yep, I'm going to be heading over there this year. So definitely be over there giving it a crack.
Very good, very good. All right. So for anyone that wants to get out and have a crack on Augusta Wildlife Tours, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Look me up on Facebook, or just look me up on augustawildfishtours.com.au, and book a tour. So, I'm on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, very cool. And if you do, tell them Deethy sent you.
That's right. You're on commission, mate. I'll definitely, pass it. Yeah.
Definitely let us know. All right. Well, last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone else you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd just like to say big thanks to the guys who run the tournaments and that, and all the sponsors, and especially my partner, Joe, who puts up with me fishing a lot on the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, spend a fair bit of time on there, so she appreciate her support, with what I do.
Very good. Well, there you have it. All right, mate. Well, look, thanks for coming on. And like I said, if anyone wants to jump on those tours, you can go out with a ABT winning angler and learn how to catch some big bream. So thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Good on you, Andrew. Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Okay, so there it is. Another competition run and won. Not big bags, but a well-fought battle. It was good to see how that played out. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up quickly. I want to roll the outros. And look, I will talk to you next week on the Bream Fishing Project.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you were informed, inspired and entertained. If you were able to learn something or just enjoyed listening, please consider subscribing and rate us on your favourite podcasting platform.